This week, my first guest, along with Senator Lindsey Graham, stepped up and called on FBI Director Christopher Wray to explain the aggressive handling of bringing in political advisor Roger Stone. Here now to talk about that headline issue and much more is the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia. Congressman, first of all, welcome to the show, and I want to get right into this issue of the arrest of Roger Stone. It did seem to many of us that it was an extraordinary force or show of force for bringing in a guy that said he was willing to just walk in and turn himself in. It
is amazing, especially in light of everything going on and the things that were going on around the shutdown and Christopher Wray getting on the next day and complaining about the issues around the shutdown and the agents not getting paid, but yet we send 20 plus agents to a house of a gentleman 60-something years old who has said he would come in, who said that he has nothing to hide, and takes it on as one former FBI agent said it looked like they were raiding a meth lab in the middle of the country. And so this is just my question is not the issue, did he do something wrong? That's irrelevant. I mean, if if he's done something wrong, he'll pay the price for that. But the way they went about it, it just seems to me a continuation of a double standard that unfortunately we've been seeing at Department of Justice and FBI for a while now.
What I think a lot of us don't understand is the overreach of it all. How did CNN know to show up at his house at 5:30 in the morning? They claim it was just good reporting. I don't know of anybody who honestly believes they're that good at reporting, because they certainly aren't the rest of the week.
No, they're not, especially when you think about the fact that it had to be, the release from the grand jury, the indictment sent down. And when you start looking at how, where there may have been a leak in this process, that's why we asked the question. We want to know, were they tipped off? Were they sitting there, to be that good of a reporter? I mean, we're looking at somebody who writes, for Pulitzer Prizes every day. This is not happening. Somehow along the way, I believe there was a tip-off from somewhere, and was it from the FBI's perspective or not? Again, Mike, this is something, though, that the American people, I don't want to also lose a bigger picture here. Are we seeing a double standard being done here for folks who are associated with this president? Because if you remember, just a few years ago, I don't remember a early morning raid on Robert Menendez, senator from New Jersey's house, when he was basically charged with very similar nonviolent issues. There was a conversation with his attorney. They showed up. They arranged it. I don't remember Cheryl Mills getting this kind of a treatment when she was working with Hillary Clinton, or even Hillary Clinton getting this kind of treatment. I think it's amazing to me that there seems to be a continuation of a double standard, especially at FBI, that we've seen over the last few years, that unfortunately is continuing to this day.
And I think a lot of people need to be reminded that Roger Stone was being arrested for lying to Congress. And, some have suggested that if that's the case, then when's John Brennan going to be brought in? When's James Clapper going to be brought in? Huma Abedin, you mentioned some others. I mean, the double standard is glaring, Congressman, and maybe one would even ask, when will members of Congress be brought in for lying to the American people? I mean, that could be a question as well for some of your colleagues over there.
Well, it is amazing to see what we're seeing right now, and this is why this is important. And I've heard the quote mainstream media and others start saying, we don't need to be talking about the Hillary Clinton email scandals. We don't need to be talking about even going back fast and furious. That's another era, another life. This is a president, frankly, that they don't like. And what we're seeing is I found, and through our work and the investigations done through the Judiciary Committee and the Intelligence Committees in the House and others, that we're seeing really what it was an unholy or a very crooked triumvirate over there with Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Jim Baker, Andy McCabe, all just sort of writing their own rules. And when it comes to this president, when it comes to anything around him, it seems that they want to make a show of it instead of actually what they have done in the past. And really, that undermines the people's trust. When people out here who see how they're treated, how they don't get a break, like Hillary Clinton and many of these others that you just mentioned named, then it says, is it really fair for everybody? What we want to see is it be fair for everybody. And the FBI and DOJ get back to being the unbiased arbiters of the law, not with political bias.
Congressman, I want to turn the corner to a topic that has been on fire this week, and that's actions in both the state of New York and the state of Virginia, where late-term abortions are being pushed as okay. Your perspective on this, I think, is very significant and important. You have a special needs child. How did you feel when you saw the governor of Virginia, in a very calm, almost sterile manner, mention taking a baby already born, setting it aside, and then deciding whether the child is going to live or die?
when I first heard it, I was just physically sick. You know, my question is, when I listened to him talk about it, and I've listened to the clip several times. My question is this the governor of Virginia, or is this a clip from a psychotic killer who is just cold-blooded watching people die? I mean, I'm not sure what he was trying to accomplish here, except his, basically indifference to a life dying on a metal platter in a room where they're just saying we're going to palliatively comfort them and let them die. Look, Mike, we've got to be very forceful about this. This is not about abortion. This is not, I don't care what kind of conversation you want to have. This is not an abortion bill. This is a murder bill. This is flat out murder. When you think about, and people understand that when you're talking about someone who is already dilating, who's already beginning to push, the only way at that point they terminate that pregnancy is physically taking an instrument and stabbing the back of the head of the baby. This is not niceties. This is not a blob of cells. This is not something they can write off. This is murder. And if this is where the left is going, we should be horrified to the world that this is where this is coming. And every member of the Democratic Party who should be called to account on this. Where are they? They've been deathly silent on this in Washington, D.C. This is something that everyone needs to talk about, because they're taking it beyond the pale of just simply an abortion bill. This is a murder bill.
Congressman, why didn't the Republicans stop the funding of Planned Parenthood when you had the House, the Senate, and the White House? I know it's frustrating to a lot of us who are pro-life, and we really believe that with all of the marbles in the hands of the Republicans, that the one thing that we might be able to get done is to stop the federal funding of an organization that takes great pride in abortion. Why didn't that happen?
Well, frustrating from a House standpoint, because I voted to do that many times. What I'm frustrated with, and it just came up, and Mike, this will be something we can talk about for a while. When it got to the Senate, Mitch McConnell was refusing to do away with the filibuster rule. They saying we can't do that and we have to strip out these provisions. Just in the last week, I've heard already presidential candidates and others in the Democratic Party saying that if they get the control of the presidency and the Senate in 2020, one of the first things they're going to do is overrule the filibuster. They're going to make sure that they can get accomplished what they want to accomplish. I voted to defund Planned Parenthood. I put those bills over to the Senate, and I've watched them die. And it's simply because of the procedural issues that Mitch McConnell will not choose to deal with. He's done some good things on judges and other things, but I believe that we as American people were let down when we let it go to the Senate and they would not take away the procedural issues on these spending bills and others in which we actually address this. So I think it's unfair to characterize all of Congress as not accomplishing something. It's very obvious where this stopped. And when we understand that, then we can begin to focus on not only getting our spending house in order, getting the president's wall, doing many other things, if they would simply go to the fact that they have the power to change this in the Senate. They've done it with judges. Why don't they do it here? When we understand what is going on, then I think that makes a big difference. And for a father of a child who is now 26, who we were told beforehand we had choices, I wouldn't trade a Jordan text or a Jordan smile that she sends to me every day for anything in the world. In fact, I wish I had her attitude. For somebody to say that it's okay to kill a baby in the womb simply because they have a deficiency, as in my daughter's case, she can't walk and maybe she has some memory issues, that's an abomination before the Lord. That's just straight out of the pit of hell.
Couldn't agree more. Final question. The wall, you brought it up, and certainly it's front and center. I'm sure it will be in the State of the Union address. You see any hope of reaching some kind of compromise? It seems to me the president has laid on the table an extraordinary amount of compromise material, but Nancy Pelosi seems dug in. Will we resolve this, or will he have to declare a national emergency?
Judging from the comments of Ms. Pelosi, it's looking like we're going to have to go to a national emergency, which is very evident on our border. As someone who has overseas immigration and the things that are going on there, our committee, I mean, we're taking 50-plus people a day and having to take them to medical care. We're seeing our borders overrun. Just this week, one of the largest fentanyl raids ever coming across our southern border. What is amazing to me here, though, Mike, and I think this is what listeners and viewers need to understand. How can it be immoral? As she said many times, a wall be immoral. Let's go back to our previous conversation. Abortion is immoral. Abortion is something that we all want to do away with. As a young man said this morning, he said, I don't want to see abortion illegal. I want to see it unthinkable. Well, if it's immoral to have a wall, if it's immoral to do these things, then why did Democrats in the House just this month vote for continuing resolutions that actually still had the same amount of money from last year in which the president built over 100 miles of wall? What did they call the wall under Obama when he built over 100 miles of wall? Did they call it immoral then? No. This is simply at the president to discredit him and to try and weaken him for 2020. He's standing tough. He's resolute in this. I've talked to him personally about this, and I know many others as well. He believes this is what people understand a problem on our southern border. He's trying to find it. He's actually put forward solutions. Ms. Pelosi is simply not. I think she really needs to open up a dictionary and figure out what compromise actually is, or finding something to bring to the table. She's doubling down, I believe, on a losing hand, and the president eventually will win this because the American people understand the truth.
Congressman, thank you very much for being with us. Well, we'll be sure to keep watch with Congressman Collins on the issues that we discussed. Let me encourage you to stay informed, visiting him online, dougcollins.house.gov. You can also follow him on Twitter at Rep. Doug Collins.